Azaynabi overworked. عمل one of his first pieces من bed sheets. Is he French? Is he Lebanese? We don't know. Hi, fashion people. Hi, Eric. Eric, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I also want to say إنه أنا وإيريك are collaborators, we're friends, and I'm so happy that you're here.
Heart.
Okay, so Eric, one of the first pieces اللي أنت عملتهم, you did them in bed sheets. So it's almost very nostalgic. بتحس حالك you're driven by this nostalgia?
Yes, definitely. Because of the nature of what I do, like upcycling is using stuff from the past to make new clothes. And a lot of what I find is discarded by people of my age and above, obviously. And so I recognize or I see a lot of things that remind me of my childhood, whether it's stuff that remind me of my grandma, of my own childhood, like my bed sheets, that I feel I like to reappropriate in making the clothes that I do. And I feel like a lot of people connect with that because somehow reconnecting with a lost memory is very special for people.
Yeah. What was your childhood bedroom like?
I have 3 siblings, so it was very crowded. We were one on top of the other for a very long time.
Me too, actually. Yeah.
And a lot of the things we had came like times 4, times 4 the same bed sheet. And my mom, I was born in the States, so she was very obsessed with everything American, especially Disney. So we had lots and lots of bed sheets with Disney characters on them. So that's what I remember of my bed as a child.
I feel like كلنا at some point we had like a Mickey Mouse bed sheet
Definitely.
or like الحاف. Yeah.
Everything. Lion King, Peter Pan, everything.
Yeah. How would you describe your personal style as a teenager?
I don't think I had a style. I was not really obsessed with fashion back then. For me, I was really interested in drawing and I was very into music, poetry. I was very, I want to say dark as a kid.
Okay.
I didn't really consider much the way I would dress. It wasn't that important for me. I was very body conscious too. So I used to go for things that would just hide my body as much as possible.
Okay. So لكن when do you think كانت the moment حسيت حالك, oh wait, I'm interested in textile, in fashion, in fabric?
I don't think it's so much that I was interested in textile or fabrics. It's just that at the age of 14, I grew up in an environment which forced me to really consider what I would be doing with my life very early on. Like it didn't feel like I had the privilege of taking my time to choose what I wanted to do. And it felt like all of my interests were art-oriented and none of that seemed to be a possible way to make money, right? So at 14, I just was like interested by fashion. And luckily my mom is a very supportive person. So she arranged that I would go and do an internship with Rabia Kairouz. And I went
14?
there. Yeah,
wow.
at 14.
Okay.
So I went there. And back then he was very much established in Beirut, right next to where I used to live. And I remember it was like a traditional Lebanese apartment. And I went there all of summer. And it felt like just a great place to be because people were coming in and they were not like working or they didn't seem to be working. It didn't seem like struggle, you know?
Yeah.
It just seemed like they were happy to be here, happy to share with one another, to order food together, to try things on one another. And to be honest, that's really what attracted me about fashion. More than the clothes or the fabrics themselves, it was the social aspect of it or the fact that these were people that were doing a living while making a life as well. And I think that marked me. And then I kept chasing that.
ذكرت بس أنا بروح لعندك على الأتelier.
Yeah.
And بيكون all over the place and we get coffee and food but everyone is still working. And it's very much like a lived-in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've connected with that very early on and I've chased it all along.
You mentioned your mother.
Yeah.
Well, she's known for her activism, her journalism. Do you think أثرت على إذا بدك your ethos بالشغل in your working on your own brand؟ أخذت منها شيء؟
Well, maybe the confidence. I think my mom is a very confident woman. She's not afraid to be public, to speak in public, to just, be outspoken. She's also a woman that raised 4 kids by herself with no support whatsoever. So she's somebody who equally is confident, but has very good reasons to be.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that really marked me. Like, try to be a confident person, and I try to have good reasons to be confident. So that is how I think what I keep of my mother. But also, like, as a kid, she was so connected to culture, and she would take me left and right to exhibitions, to plays, to concerts, to things honestly you shouldn't take a kid to. But I was exposed, like, at a very young age to things that really made me curious and question, like, everything. Like, why are they doing this? Why is that being done that way? Like, why is it so important? And still today, like, ChatGPT is my best friend, because every time a question pops up, I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, let's get an answer to that. But I feel this comes from having my mom really take me as a 6-year-old to watch art gallery opening that I was like very far away of being able to understand.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned questioning things, you don't have the Lebanese passport. You hold a French passport.
True.
So can في like a moment where you realized, oh wait, I'm not Lebanese. I have a French passport. Am I French? Were you questioning, let's say, privilege? And I have a privilege too. I can leave whenever I want.
Yes, definitely. I mean, all along, I think very quickly, after graduating, I studied in Beirut. And after graduating, I thought, since I have that passport and therefore that privilege, I would like to try and go live and work in Paris, because obviously when you think of fashion, you're like, Paris, this is where I want to be. And so I did that. I took that passport, and I was like, that's at least one thing it can offer me. And I went for it. And I was very, very depressed in Paris. And that made me come back to Beirut. And it is deeply privileged to be able to do that, especially when I came back and I started seeing my own friends and my own students leaving to make a better life or a better living outside. And I feel blessed that I could, or that I had that privilege, and that I did something good with it.
Yeah.
By choosing to be here and to be building something here, simply knowing that I can rely on that privilege, knowing that every challenge that came my way, it was always, I can overcome this challenge, knowing that I still have that plan B in the back of my mind, which I recognize a lot of people don't. And when you have to look after yourself, it's hard to look out for others. So that's maybe the best thing that this passport offered me. But then obviously in terms of identity, it has always been very complicated for me to make sense of that, because when I was in Paris, I was treated like a foreigner. And when I'm in Beirut, people don't really consider me totally Lebanese either. And every article or press article that would come up that would mention me as French Lebanese, I always felt like, why is the French preceding the Lebanese when I feel so much more Lebanese as a person? But then again, a friend of mine made it important to note that if they didn't mention that I'm French Lebanese, they would also be biased, or like not speaking the truth and not recognizing the privilege that I do have. And I don't know if I'm answering the question, but like this question of privilege is very important. I think of it even today when an opportunity arises for a fashion show or to participate in a showroom elsewhere, like being able to just pack my collection in a suitcase and bounce is great.
True.
And it deeply bothers me that some great designers have to go through more struggles just to get to show their collection abroad.
Yeah, 100%. I will ask you about Paris more actually later. بس بدي أسألك عن your first collection, which featured 12 denim jackets. You have a very distinguished style كمان in that particular jacket now. And you produced all of them بطرابلس.
Correct.
Do you think يعني making that collection there set the tone إنه كيف حتشتغل later on?
Yeah, definitely. Because from the get-go, like this whole brand started off with these 12 pieces. At that time, I think I had already been through a whole series of disillusion Like I worked in Paris and I was not happy. I came back to Beirut. I worked with Zuhair Mrad and I was not happy doing evening dresses. And I felt like, I wasn't really finding that sense of community and family that I had experienced at 14. And I was ready to give up on fashion altogether. For me, it was like, I definitely made the wrong decision. But then I started working on something very different. So I started teaching at university and I started working with NGOs in Tripoli that were really working with women and women empowerment. So they were training them, teaching them different skills related to clothes making. And that's how I started working on different projects, designing collections that would bring all of these skills together. So I met these women, but also other workers in Tripoli that were complaining about not having enough work, while at the same time being exposed to the flea markets of Tripoli, where so much clothes were discarded every season, basically. And that's how it all started to make sense to me. And it started to feel like I have a good reason to make a brand, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was so essential to me. You asked about my style as a teenager. I'm not somebody who believes to have a great sense of style personally, but I did feel like I did not want to launch a brand because who am I to say that this is more aesthetic than something else? Unless I found a real good reason to do it, which I did by experiencing Tripoli that way. And so I did these 12 jackets with the help of the women I had trained, using bits and pieces of materials I had left from my university days, using materials that people offered me, using just stuff that I found in the flea market. And so each one was like a denim cut jacket, patchworked, different prints, and re-embroidered on all of the seams by hand. And that's how I started the whole brand. I really like that story because I don't think a lot of people know it, but it did really start with just 12 pieces that I financed with very little means.
Yeah.
And that's how the whole ball started rolling.
You mentioned community, which was actually my next question. اللي هو ما بعرف إذا الناس بيعرفوا قديش Emergency Room Beirut is very much a community-based brand. And I feel like يمكن the only community-based brand بلبنان. Do you feel like هيدي الكوميونتي اجت على بعضها organically أو أنت ساعدت إنه تكون super community-based, the brand?
For a very long time, actually, the brand at the very beginning, for 2 years, I want to say, was presented online. I don't know if people will remember, using face masks. So all of the posts were always hiding the faces of the models wearing them. And that's because two reasons. So the first one was imposter syndrome. I wanted to make sure that people liked the clothes and bought the clothes for the clothes and not because they like me or they have an appreciation of my person. And the second was because I really wanted people to look at the clothes, not at the people wearing them.
Yeah.
And I think that lasted until I got enough confidence to say that I'm the person behind the brand. And I decided to open a shop. It was 2019. And we opened the store in Marem Khail. So we had 2 years of pop-ups, of events, of selling on consignment in other stores. And I felt like, we have a store now. So we have a place where people can come. And back then, I decided to announce that with a campaign that featured models without face masks. So it's like I dropped the face masks. And for that very first campaign, I had very different people. Some people that we kept on working with today, like my own grandmother, like Sasha Elijah, like people of literally all shapes, sizes, color. And that was so important for me to say that if we're going to put a face on this brand, it is a very plural and multiple face. And so I think that's maybe the only thing I feel I have intentionally did to create a community, which is saying that everybody is welcome in that space. And of course, kept reinforcing it through all of the challenges that we've been through, always reminding people that, we are a brand, but we are a social brand. We are a brand with a cause that we need to stand by and every time we can, defend.
I think almost جاوبت my next question اللي هو how you're always hosting events. حتى you're very welcome to having collabs, pop-ups at your store. كنت بدي أسألك إنه what keeps you kind of doing this? usually atelier or boutique is very much, as I'm a designer, it's like very much my brand, it's my space. So to open it على طول للعالم for different things, why do you keep doing it?
I want to say essentially it's because I don't have a big ego, but mostly it's because I remember when I was a kid, there were so many stores in Beirut, and you could just walk from Jamaisa to Maram Khail and see different designers and different brands. And I feel like today it's really not the landscape that we have actually. Everything's been replaced by bars and restaurants and like food things. And I feel really sad about that because I feel like you're erasing the culture of our country. And what does it say to, foreigners that are coming to visit? Or to young people growing up like that? We don't have designers. And so I feel like if I have a space and I have the opportunity to share it with people that might need a space to show what they're doing, of course I'm going to do it. Because I am somebody who believes strongly that you're only as strong as the people around you are. And it's so important to support one another. And positive competition is so important.
So تعقيباً على هيدا الشيء,
Yeah.
عرفت قصة recently actually about this Egyptian designer who flew from Egypt, استأجرت شقة بمرم خايل just to intern عندك. And when was that?
Wow. One time, I think 3 years ago now.
Wow.
I was in Egypt. There was a pop-up and this girl comes up to me and she's like, oh, I would really like to go to Beirut and do an internship with you. Could I? I was like, well, yes, of course. If your parents accept, you're welcome. And then I totally forgot about the whole story. I get back to Beirut, I'm living my own life. And then suddenly, randomly, I get like a message. And she's like, oh, I'm in Beirut. When can I start my internship?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, that's crazy.
Straight to the point.
I just said you could, but okay. أهلا وسهلا فيك.
How long did she intern for?
Well, she was supposed to stay 2 months. I think she did 1 month out of the 2. Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
As head of the fashion department بقلبة, how do you think Gen Z students are approaching careers in fashion?
I think what's interesting today, when I was at university, everybody wanted to be a designer, you know? I feel like today they are much more aware of how vast this industry is and the multiple positions that need to be filled in that industry. Very luckily, actually, because it is not an industry where jobs are going to be easily replaced, I believe. And if people are aware that there are so many different things you could be doing, then there's probably a good way for them to specialize in things. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a friend recently عن قديش يمكن برا لبنان التخصص بالفاشن can be very specific. Like you can major in knitwear, you can major in just menswear. So حتى growing up بتذكر إنه if you want to do fashion بدك تعملي مصممة أزياء. So this is the يمكن أكتر شيء العالم بيعرفوه عن عالم الأزياء اللي هو if you're doing fashion, you're a fashion designer. Meanwhile, there's so many things you can do.
Because unfortunately, the idea of being a designer comes with a lot of prestige. But what I like to tell people is that as long as I can remember, for as long as I can foresee, nobody's walking the street naked. And so we all need to put clothes on our bodies and somebody has to make them.
Yeah.
So production is a really big part of our industry that we really don't see.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem today.
Yeah.
I mean, like we somehow still see a bit of it in Lebanon because we all have هذه خياطة neighborhood.
صح.
But outside of Lebanon, that's even worse. Like that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a very important conversation to have.
True. Speaking of important conversations, طرقت لموضوع education in your Spring Summer 24 collection.
Yeah.
And it was Neverland High. شو في موضوع you feel like عبالك تتطرق له هلا, and how do you think that would translate into a collection?
Listen, what I like to do a lot is investigate or dive back into old collections. Like this year, I'm going back to something that I presented very quickly, which was Golden Rage, and the idea of revisiting Beirut's golden age. I feel like I would like to go back into maybe a collection I did in 2020, which was Daddy Issues. And that is just maybe more personal than social. But I feel like a lot of people could connect to. Except maybe this time I would try to approach it from a less personal angle and more in a critique of this patriarchal system that we are in and we are all suffering from.
100%. Now, you mentioned Teta Huda, and we all know Teta Huda, who is your Teta, and she agreed to model for you simply لأنه بتحبك كتير وتعمل لك support. بس I'm asking the question أكتر لإلك in how did it reflect on you بس بلشت تشتغل مع تيتا هدى or when she started to model for you. Did that kind of let you experience a change of perspective, perhaps?
I really felt a lot of positive things happened to her when we started doing that. It's like she started enjoying life a bit more or unexpectedly. And I just feel like this whole experience made me realize that when you do things out of love for other people, you cannot go wrong and you will for sure get something out of it. So I just wish that more people, when asked to do something, would just say yes without really second guessing, doubting, or, just like, okay, fine, you want me to try this? I'll try it with you, let's go. And you never know. You never know what you could get out of it by helping somebody else or by simply saying yes to a suggestion.
Yes. ومنهم actually, when I asked Eric to come on my podcast, he was like, sure.
Very simply.
كيف وليش. I've approached other designers who wanted more details. So Eric was very, very open to that, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Emergency Room Beirut experiments كتير with gender neutral or gender fluid fashion. So how do you make sure you are able to make pieces that can be worn by anyone and everyone and still feel authentic to that person? Unless ما بتفكر كتير فيها بهالطريقة and you just like make what you like.
أبداً ما بفكر فيها بهالطريقة.
Okay.
I just make what I like, you know what I mean? A lot of the pieces are unique because of the materials we're choosing. So I work a lot on the cuts themselves. Most of what we do is always very big, wide, or just comfortable. Because in my mind, it's like we can always take it in, adjust it on the people that want it. And the focus is on the material that we're using. So that will make really each piece very special and different from another. And I feel like when people come in the store and they pick and choose what they want, it's like they're appropriating something for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think gender is so irrelevant in this situation. Like if you like it and you think it complements you, then great.
100%. لأنه I would ask my mom if she likes a top مثلا تقلي كتير حلو بقلها by the way جبته من عند ال men's section ببطل يعجبها.
I know, right?
Yeah. So it really makes you think قديش إنه نحنا we're very much إذا بدك driven by the label. إنه I would not even approach this piece لأنه it was made for a man. Meanwhile, it can just look very nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one thing about the souks that I really like Souk El Ahad, is that they try to differentiate them, but a lot of the time there's a table with a bunch of pants and whatever you see that fits is great.
Yeah. حكينا عن شوي the material that you use while making your pieces. So you've used socks, شراشف مطبخ to make a lot of your pieces. How do you decide what can be used to make an elevated piece?
I don't.
Okay. Simply.
I go to the souks, I'm like, what's available in a huge quantity? And I'm like, I'll take it. And I'll be like, let's just pick our brain and try to make something out of it. Or it's just something that I've seen that I'm trying to push. For instance, the socks, I honestly did not invent it. Like the tops were made by Margiela. I just wanted to see how we could reinvent it or reuse it. Because I feel like it's sad that some people have already done certain things and yet they've never went into the mainstream or been picked up by people, even though Margiela himself laid out like a step-by-step guide on how to make it yourself. So sometimes it's that. And sometimes it's just like, okay, what's the collection I want to do? Or what is the theme I want to talk about? And what kind of materials will bring that to mind? or illustrate that in the best possible way. And so this is how I choose them. And so even though I have a great material, I will keep it aside for another moment.
Yeah.
So now I have a whole lot of materials.
Right. So لأنه as Emergency Room Beirut, you have a commitment to exclusively using dead stock. So أكيد you have your individual style. We know an Emergency Room Beirut piece when we see it. بس كمان أكيد إجت مع إيجابياتها using strictly dead stock. But at the same time, what are the challenges that come from just using dead stock? How does that influence the outcome?
But there's a lot of challenges, like financially first, like if people like a style and you only have one of it and you could have sold 10 of it, it's definitely like a bummer, but it is the decision that we've made. And then technically, because you might have one piece that you're doing, but you know, each fabric will answer differently to sewing or the steps. And so it requires a lot of adaptability from the people making the clothes. And in Lebanon, it's already very hard to find skilled people to work on making the clothes. And so therefore, it makes it all the more important for me to create a sense of not only community, but family that will make people really stay and stay for a long time and practice and get trained and understand how to adapt to the pieces without necessarily, you know, ringing me up like, hey, this is not working, what should I do? Because they've already been through that so many times that now they know how to make decisions without referring back to me. And so that is a few of the challenges that working with upcycled materials created. On top of, you know, you have to do a lot of things that people don't really understand and to justify the price sometimes, but I stopped justifying it for a while now. But like, you've got to like get the materials, you've got to clean them because they're dirty. You've got to like wait for them to dry, iron them, patchwork them, find the best way to cut them by avoiding, I don't know, a hole or something. All of that is just, you know,
and you're working with artisans.
More. Yeah, it's so much more labor intensive that even if the material itself is not expensive, all of the steps that you have to make it look like it's not upcycled are creating a lot of value.
Yeah. Actually, عطيتنا like a chance to see this firsthand by some of the workshops you've been hosting. عملت معكم a bunch of workshops and you were there and كانت عم تسمع نقي just trying to make a skirt, and I realized just making a very simple skirt is an insane act of labor. Just, people I think should understand.
Well, this is why we host the workshops, actually. Because people are excited to learn something, but of course, it would be insane to believe you can learn a whole craft in 2 hours.
Yeah.
But for us, it's mostly for people to start really understanding the work that goes into making the clothes. And we go back to something we mentioned earlier, which is really revaluing the production process.
Yeah.
We don't know how clothes are made. We don't know all of the efforts that go into making them. And we just find it normal to purchase cheap clothes. And it's really not okay anymore.
Now I want to move on نركز شوي على لبنان and Emergency Room Beirut being a brand based in Lebanon. وبنعرف إنه Emergency Room Beirut انخلقت إذا بدك as an emergency response to the industry. بنفس الوقت almost بحالة emergency because it was 2018 و 2019 بنعرف شو صار.
2020 and
الوضع
2021
exactly و 2024.
Yeah.
So just like the situation surrounding the growth of هالbrand is just insane.
It is.
Did you ever think إن خلص ما عادش بدي, I just want to quit?
So many times.
Really?
So many times.
فكرت حتقولي لا.
But every time you have that doubt, you come back so much stronger. And so it's so important to have this moment. And I think today that really makes me feel indestructible. And that's so rich. You know, telling you earlier that my mom is a very confident person. And I feel like I'm a confident person too. But one has to earn, I think, the right to be confident by showing up and consistently and constantly overcoming. And that's not easy. But I think that a lot of Lebanese people are like that. And so many of us are confident, sometimes too confident, but we kind of earned it.
Yeah, 100%. وحكينا عن هول الأوضاع اللي مرق فيها البلد and of course the brand. I'm sure there were many turning points. بس كمان during whole turning points لاحظنا إنه so many brands and designers صاروا ياخدوا their businesses outside. But it seems that Emergency Room Beirut survived. قدرت تضل بلبنان. Did you think at some point عبالي خليني أخد my brand and go to Paris?
Never.
Really?
I've always felt like anytime I go out and I meet other brands, like some people have it easier abroad because they're more supported by their government or institutions, or simply because they're closer to a network of businesses that could help them out. So yes, there definitely is always a bit of jealousy when I see how things are developing abroad. But then again, I decided not to be abroad. I decided to be here and to build something here. And one has to also be up to what they have chosen for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like I've decided to start a brand here, not out of a selfish decision, not because I want to have a brand, because I feel like there's a need to have a brand. And that doesn't change because challenges are arising. It only reinforces the reason for the brand to exist here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I feel like I always tell people, if you don't have a great reason to start a brand, really don't, because it's going to suck the energy and life out of you. So you really have to have a great reason that will keep you motivated.
صح.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I feel like each challenge really reinforced the fact or the idea, the decision that, yeah, I was doing the right thing. I've been doing the right thing from day one. And I'm very blessed, you know? Mm-hmm. I keep telling people, and that's kind of how we also became famous internationally, because through all of the challenges and for, you know, each thing that is bad, silver lining, we get attention, you know? So crisis, COVID, blast, political unrest, economic collapse. And all of the press that we were getting was always like, how do you do it? How do you continue? And it was always like, I don't know, how do you not continue? How do you get destroyed by just a virus, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you should be asking yourself what is wrong with you. Because we've been building our brand from the get-go, working with local people, working with local materials, and we're unaffected by anything.
Most emerging designers, بتحس their goal is to go outside, to showcase برا, to showcase in Paris, in Italy. Do you think there's like a misunderstanding about this process? You know, I want to showcase برا, I want to do a fashion show in Paris.
The global industry of fashion is built in a way where they have all of this institutionalized so that you can fit within a certain way of doing. You go do shows abroad, you go do showrooms abroad, so you can get bigger orders. And these orders will represent money, basically, and work opportunities for people in your country. So it's not a bad thing to go abroad and to try and get that, you know? Mm-hmm. Or eventually to try and get more recognition or more people wanting to purchase your product. So all of that is very important, of course. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to sell products because for whatever reason, whether they're selfish reasons or because you want to create more employment in your country, I think it's never a bad idea to go abroad. I'm still much more happy by selling pieces in my own store in Mar Mikhail. And economically, financially, it is so much more interesting for me to do it because the full profit is mine. I don't have to share it with another store, right? And it can go directly towards funding more things locally. But unfortunately, because of everything that we've been through, the market in Lebanon is very small. And so we have to resort to try and take the brand abroad.
Now I want your reflections on a few things. منهم, this idea that everyone wants to work in fashion. Fashion is such a, you know, when you tell someone I work in fashion, they're very intrigued. They feel like it's such a glamorous job. So maybe to demystify هيدا الشيء أو نشرحه أكتر للviewers, where does the glam come? Is there actual glam?
No, there's no glam at all. If you're a designer,
right?
If you see me on a daily life, I am probably sweating hell, carrying a few dozens of clothes from Tripoli to Tripoli. And it's just very tiring. Physically, it is an exhausting industry to be working in. The glam only happens on red carpets. And sometimes this is what people keep in mind, the red carpets, the galas, the fashion shows. It is an industry with a lot of ego, whether we like to admit it or not. It is an industry that makes or dresses the people that people look up to, whether they're politicians or celebrities.
Right.
So the glam comes at all of that. We do have a responsibility, those of us who do dress influential people. So a certain aspect of it can be glamorous.
How do you deal with stress and burnout? You don't deal.
No, I did very well, actually.
Okay.
I am one of the most chill designers you might be able to meet. I remember when I was working with Zuhair Murad, something stuck with me since then. Every collection, they would have laid out a collection plan, like most designers, with I don't know, let's say 30 dresses that need to be executed and finished by a certain deadline because there's a fashion show. And by the few days before the show, if let's say 5 dresses were not done, it was full panic mode. And I used to not be able to connect or understand it. And it would annoy my coworkers a lot. They'd be like, Eric, how can you not be stressed? I'm like, well, why should I? We're not really curing a disease or
Okay, yeah.
ما عم نحل مشكلة الشرق الأوسط. We're just designers making dresses. One has to also recognize that, of course, I can do it with the best intentions in the world. It's just clothes.
Right.
So if there's one less, one more, nobody's gonna die, really. Our life is pretty stressful as it is without us having to add a layer of stress on it.
So it wasn't stress that led you, تسكر overworked.
Not necessarily stress, more like a feeling like I was not giving it the attention it deserves. We're still a very small team. One has to recognize the capacities that they have. And I think when we established it, there was a need for it. And we had the team capable of handling it. But it's more intentional. I want to be more intentional about what I'm doing. And it felt like maybe trying to keep two brands alive was too much work. Not stress, just I'm not able to give enough attention to it. So why would I keep it?
Right. R.I.P. She was cute.
Truly.
What have you learned working on your brand that you didn't learn in fashion school?
Everything. What I learned in school was literally how to make clothes and draw clothes. All of the rest was learned on the job.
So you feel like something is missing in fashion education?
No. You cannot learn all about that in 3 years. It's totally impossible. It was impossible then. It is even more impossible today. We have so much more that we're trying to still teach within 3 years. New technologies, new techniques. It's just impossible. And our history is growing. We're expected to teach the same amount of history and more in the same amount of years. It's quite crazy, you know what I mean?
True.
So, no, I don't think that it's lacking anything. I just feel like one has to either be very rich, have a lot of capital before starting a brand so they can hire, let's say, a manager, a communication agent, whatever brand, website developer, and so on. And if you're not rich and you want to start your brand alone, you really have to take some time to learn all of that, even after graduating.
Right.
So pick up the jobs that you can, do as much as you can, even for free. This is not for free. If you intend to start your own brand, you're not working for free. You're getting educated or you're getting exposed to things you will need, right? And you're investing in yourself ultimately. If I had to pay for all of the services that I needed starting the brand, I would never have been able to start it, or let alone face all of the challenges that I've been through. But because I can do so much myself, I'm never scared of anything because I know I can take the pictures, I can edit them, I can upload them on the website, I can do the website myself, and so on and so on and so on. So that's so essential.
If I want to ask a very simple question, what motivates you to keep going?
I feel like what motivated me to start is what motivates me to keep going.
Right, okay.
And I feel like from a very young age, I knew I wanted to have my own fashion brand.
Okay.
I just, along the way, I was a bit confused. What would it look like? What would it be? and then I found it, I made it happen. And sometimes it's still hard to realize, like, hey, I'm only 30 and I have my fashion brand. It's been running for 7 years now. So like, yeah, I mean, whatever comes, I'm gonna have to beat it, because I was dreaming about that and I'm now living it. And I owe it to my younger self to stand up to the challenges that come my way.
Last question. What is one simple message you can give to fashion students?
So many messages that I give every day.
One tiny piece of advice. بركة.
So many. But I think the most important one today would be to never, ever think you're the best. Never get that obsessed or sure of yourself that you do not think you can learn something from whoever and wherever, or lack respect to people around you.
Thank you very much.
So welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching. This was High Fashion People. Stay tuned to the next episode.